I want to talk first about Robert Jenrick, the immigration minister. It just seems to me like this government live in some kind of fantasy land. He's given a big speech saying failure to stop the boats is not an option. Well, you are failing to stop the boats. I mean, where do they get off? I mean, they're not tackling this crisis at all. It's getting worse and worse and worse. We know they're commandeering more and more hotels. They've just opened the very first asylum seekers camp. That's at Wethersfield in Essex to take thousands of migrants. They're going to open another one in RAF Scampton. They've got another one down at North Eye Prison, a derelict prisons down in Sussex. More and more of these camps will be holding thousands of migrants. Meanwhile, we learned today the government is commandeering more and more hotel rooms, rental properties, not to put anyone in, but to have them ready for when more migrants come over. There is nothing in the narrative of this government that in any way looks like they're even pretending to stop the boats. And yet we have the immigration minister, Robert Jenrick, coming out with utter piffle. Failure to stop the boats is not an option. They're not stopping the boats, are they?
I mean, this government just confuses me because, you've got Sunak's pledges to fix the things that they broke. You imagine a chief executive in an annual report writing something to shareholders. We're going to fix the things that we messed up on. They'd be out of a job. And yet this government are now doing this, trying to play both ways. And I think people are seeing right through it now. And saying we've got many problems in this country, including immigration, on policies that we got wrong or not implementing policies at all. The reason we've got problems in immigration, the reason we've got problems on collapsing the infrastructure of schools and transport problems and an endless NHS crisis is because this government have been around for 13 years. They haven't fixed anything. All our infrastructures and major topics and issues have got worse over the 13 years. The country is rotting. There's a sense of decline. Immigration is a perfect example of this. The government are playing both sides and saying, we're going to be tough on immigration and sort out what's going on in the channel, but they end up providing solutions that make the problem even worse. And meanwhile, community infrastructures are being stretched because of this. Homelessness figures are going through the roof because of the lack of facilities. You've got NHS crisis, which is linked to this problem as well. And the solution for the migrants not getting on top of what's going on in the channel, which is of danger to their lives, and also a welfare situation for the migrants, combined with a piecemeal solution for barges and hotels or camps, doesn't solve the problem. It pushes the problem into tomorrow rather than solving it today, and actually creates more problems tomorrow on a number of different fronts. Problems for the migrants, problems for communities, and problems for credibility for the government as well.
Yeah, indeed. Now, to go back to Wethersfield, now that's a former air base in Essex. The local community has been campaigning hard to try to stop it being converted into an asylum seeker camp, but they've failed. It is now open for business. This is going to be the new image of the migrants crisis. It will be these vast, giant asylum seeker camps. So we've got the first one at Wethersfield. There's one planned at RAF Scampton where they filmed the Dam Busters. We know that there's one, they're renovating a derelict prison down in North Eye. Now, these places are vast, and they will take thousands of migrants. And quite often, they're very close to small rural communities that haven't got the infrastructure for them. But the rural communities are being ridden roughshod over. They're not being listened to. And this is going to be the new face of this crisis going forward. These vast camps full of thousands of migrants, not forgetting all the hotels that they've commissioned, plus new in at #1 on the migrants crisis charts, the barges. So there's one going to open very soon in Portland in Devon. We're talking about 9 more. So everything this government is doing, James, is not stopping the boats. It's just finding more and more places to put the migrants.
Yeah, it's not listening to the concerns of communities. I mean, I think there's 3 aspects of the government are going to be in big trouble at the next election. There's the migrant solutions, in inverted commas, that the government are trying to provide, which is ignoring a lot of the concerns of communities. And these communities, well, they shouldn't be smeared as bigots or xenophobes. Far from it. They're just concerned about their community infrastructures. Anyone would be. And so there needs to be an honest debate about what their concerns, rather than tarnishing and smearing. I'm sick of all those tropes that are used against anyone who expresses genuine concerns on issues that are genuine concern. And then you've got the second aspect to this, and that's net zero and the levy in terms of green taxes, which feels to me like Sunak's new poll tax. And the final aspect, which connects a lot of this stuff, is the cost of living crisis, which hasn't been solved by the government at all during Sunak's time as Prime Minister. I think on those 3 points, they're going to be the issues that will probably cost the government at the next election.
Yeah, just a quick word on a story in the Mail on Sunday today that thousands of British families are being left homeless because the government is outbidding local councils on rental property. So they're zoning in, they're outbidding the local councils, and they're literally booking out these houses and apartments and flats in anticipation of having to put migrants in them. So that's going on all over the country now. We're seeing hotels being commandeered left, right and centre. So we think now more than 500 hotels around the country are full of migrants. So we've got a hotel down in Wales, in Llanelli, called the Stardy Park. Classic of the narrative. It is this, that, all the guests have been turfed out, the 100 staff have been fired, and this 4-star hotel, it's got copper baths in its suites, 250 quid a night, famed restaurants, lovely place for weddings. That's going to become a migrant asylum seeker centre, and that's happening all over the country. Local communities decimated, not consulted. This is out of control, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the aspects, going back a bit, one of the aspects to the Brexit vote, and a lot of these communities voting for Brexit, was because these communities felt forgotten. They weren't listened to. This is happening again in the same communities on an issue that was actually connected to Brexit about immigration. I think most communities see the benefits, as I've said many times before, for economic immigration, but as long as it's structured properly. This isn't. Yeah. It's been put into communities against the wishes of these communities, and they feel forgotten about again. That is why there's so much disenfranchisement with politics, because these communities, which have many of them have been hollowed out since deindustrialization over the last 40 years, they feel that politicians are not listening to them. They're treating them like suckers. They're putting policies in place that are diametrically opposite to the concerns of these communities. Absolutely. And people have had enough. And it's happening across Europe, actually, as well. There's a number of places across Europe where there's civil unrest, because you've got governments who are not listening to the concerns of various communities. It's now happening, not just on this issue, but a number of issues in the UK. And governments always pay a high price for that. And I think this government will pay an exceptionally high price at the next election, because whether it's on immigration or many, many other issues, quite often connected to the cost of living crisis, people feel forgotten about because the government are either not listening to them, they seem to be more concerned clinking glasses at expensive parties, either in this country or overseas, or just enjoying the fact that their politicians enjoying their power. And what they're not doing is they're not dealing with the common touch, the concerns of communities. And this immigration story is a perfect example of this. And communities right across the country have got every right to be concerned about this.